stupid thing like a few boxes from IKEA. How about the task, eliminate cancer of humans? Well, that's a topic already, right? And imagine you could have that system, and within a month, you would just get pills that would prevent all cancer of all humans. That's a game changer. But also, and that's also the thing, you could also say, okay, maybe find a way to eliminate Gianluca and all of his family without ever knowing I did it. That's also a cool task. So like everything, and that's also why some people are concerned about the intelligence that goes just way beyond what we can imagine today. Put at the good use, like eliminating cancer, would be great, and we will all be healthy. Put at the wrong case, like eliminating people, killing people, spreading diseases, would maybe could be really dangerous. And that's why also some people like Elon Musk here are concerned about AI. And actually, they say it's the biggest threat to the very existence of humanity, of civilization as we know it. And it could very much be the end of it, because the powers are even beyond what nuclear weapons can do today. The others would say, well, come on, nuclear weapons have been around for 7 years and we're still here, so I don't give you the answers. I never promised that. The other fear is actually about the AI becoming self-conscious. I'm a robot, now I realize, and those are all the people who are the masters, I'm the slave, no longer people. I will now rule it because I'm much more powerful, I'm clever. I'm the future of this planet, so I will just kill you all because I want robots to rule here. So this is the poor Bender here from Futurama. But, it's the AI that really turns evil. Very few people are concerned about this scenario. They are rather concerned about the AI being just a machine and be put to the wrong purpose rather than waking up and start killing humans because it would feel superior to the humans. That's not that much of the problem. So kill all humans, most likely just in Futurama. What are the concerns, interestingly enough, are systems that will be given the wrong task. So imagine you have this almighty system and you will say, okay, I want you to eliminate cancer with all humans. And there are many ways to do that. And there is one obvious.
Kill everybody.
Kill all humans, because then there will be no cancer, right? If there is no humans, there is no cancer of humans. So that leads us to, okay, are there any implicit limits to what the system can do in order to follow our orders? And okay, we have the ethical principles back there, but do they equally apply in this? Interestingly enough, this has been addressed already way back with Isaac Asimov, my very much favorite writer of science fiction novels. And it was published in 2058 in the Handbook of Robotics, which somehow appeared back in our times in 1942 in his novel called Roundabout, and was later published in iRobot. And already that, so we are in the middle of the Second World War. Isaac Asimov was thinking as far ahead as what we are now discussing 70 plus years later, about should we put some hardwired limits in the autonomous systems, that whatever they think is good to do, they will not be able to get beyond that limit. And hurting human was the first law of robotics that Isaac Asimov came with. So you've got a robot may not injure a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. That's the first law of robotics. There is nothing above that. So you could not possibly tell a robot kill Gianluca, because it says, yes, I will follow the orders, but I'm sorry, it's not in line with the first law of robotics. So the system will kind of shut down and say, no, I cannot do that. So those are some. They are 70 years old, so we can have a whole seminar on those and come up with a million funny situations where you would still kill humanity and follow these rules. But you get the point. The point is, are we about to come up with some rules and hardwire them into the robots? And how do we justify that from the ethical theory? Having those limitations. Because come on, the robot, as long as you own it, you're free to do whatever you want with the robot, unless you harm somebody else. Before you harm someone, it's your robot. You can do it in the way you want. You can build a robot without these laws. And nobody has a right to prevent you from doing that. So there is no such right as I have a right to your own property. So who will do that? Regulator? Oh, come on, that's not the... Where does the right of regulators come from? They don't have a right to limit your property. But if we don't do that, how about these bunch of robots walking around and killing humans? Okay, think about it again. Another food for thought once you're out of this room and you start thinking about the world. And now it's getting science fiction. So the artificial general intelligence is something that will come. We just don't know if it's 15 years, 30 years, maybe 50 years. Or wild estimates, but it will come very soon in our lives. What may not come still, but what may not be at all possible, or what will not come in our lives level also could appear is artificial consciousness. So that means the machines suddenly realizing that they exist. So machines thinking of their own existence. Is that possible? Well, if it's possible in this brain, which is, even though it's 100 billion neurons, it's not that much of a deal if you can build a machine that's more than that. Why the machine shouldn't be able to also be self-aware the way we are. There exists we don't know where the consciousness is in the brain. What we do is we're correlating activities, electrochemical impulses in your brain, we're correlating them with some neural activities, some brain activities, and we're calling these things neural correlates of consciousness. So basically it's somewhere, there is some consciousness here, and we can measure some electrochemical impulses in the brain, and we can correlate those. Most likely now that you're thinking about yourself, some electricity is happening in your brain. If you see the same in a machine, emulated, well then you can say, maybe there's also consciousness in the machine, because the way it works would be similar. The only difference is this is carbon and hydrogen, and that would be silicon and something else. But in principle, neurons and neural networks would be the same. So why not think about consciousness? And then we are there. If the thing is conscious, should it have rights? Actually, tell me why not. Give me one reason why a machine that was constructed by humans, built by humans, completely built by humans, but that exhibits all functionalities that a human brain, a human body exhibits, like the brain activity, cognitive capacity, and consciousness. Why the thing, even though it's a thing, should not have rights as humans? And if we could come up with those reasons. Take them off and think about them for a while, because really, one of the principles, if we build an ethical system that you want the society to follow, Immanuel Kant told us about this categorical imperative. You want every rule to be generally applicable. If it's not generally applicable, it's not a rule for society. But if it's generally applicable to humans that are defined as beings with certain cognitive capacities, if you have another being with the same, why should not the rules apply to that as well? I mean, a dog is stupid, it does not have that. A rock is nothing, it does not have that. But that robot, with a self-aware robot. So those are moments that we think about. What is when actually is the moment when we would say, okay, there's an automated system and we should treat it as at par with us because it claims rights, it talks rights, it feels pain, it has feelings, it has the sentience, which means subjective feelings, subjective experiences. So it feels pain the way we feel pain. Pain is electric impulses somewhere bloody here. It's just nothing else. The machine will have the very same type of pain, even bigger because in a second it can be a million times more than you can do. So if you hurt it for a second, it's like a million times more time than if I hurt you, because the machine can experience it much more. You fire your neurons 50 times per second, the machine can do it 50 million times per second. So it actually will be much more pain. Should not be good. So for me, and that's now we are talking what are my thoughts here. I think that the pure fact that we are made of carbon and some other substances, while the machine would be made of silicon and other substances, is not a categorical difference. The very fact that God created us, whatever you believe, God created us, or we descended from apes, the machine descended from us in the way that we created it. So is that really a categorical difference? And if so, think about the consequences, because if you say there is a difference, then couldn't you make the very same difference between babies and adults? Because come on, baby is just a piece of meat, it doesn't have anything. It's just that. Doesn't it have rights? Can I kill it just like I can crush a rock? What is the principle? If you apply it elsewhere, it would not create weird situations in today's world. So talk humans, machines, animals, babies, rocks, and find a way of granting rights to some and not granting rights to the others, and still being consistent in using your principles of categorization. It's not an easy task. And at the moment, if we say yes, then we will need to define a moment when we say it's clever enough to give it rights. Fortunately, we are still in the situation of smart toasters, where I hope none of us believes that that's the machine we should give it rights to. But we are fast progressing. And with this, how far are we from that? 50 years? We will still see that happen. And before we close that, we have a cool, interesting phenomenon described as sideways thinking as brain simulations. Obviously, because the brain is, as I said, neurons, axons, some other cells, electricity running in it. Sooner or later, what is believed, we will be able to simulate full brain. So basically, take 100 billion neurons, and either at the neuron level or even at a molecular level, we'll be able to completely simulate what's happening there. Maybe, God, who knows? Maybe at some point we will be able to dump a human brain and upload that brain into the simulation. Why not? Well, tell me why not. I don't know. Maybe in a destructive way, you just cut my brain slice by slice, or in a non-destructive way, just scan it and copy it into a computer. So now my bloody brain with all the shit that's in it will be running in a computer that's just a million times faster than what my brain is. And then, if you were not ready to grant human rights to the machine, would you grant the rights to this clone of my brain running in some Intel-based computer down there? Why not? If that thing commits a crime and it's my clone, who's responsible? Is it the machine or is it me? Because it's actually, I would do it anyway if I were the machine because it's my brain, right? By the way, the GDPR topic comes really cool in a brain topic. Maybe that will evolve also by that time. Now, imagine the thing commits a crime. You sentence it for 1 day in prison. Is it a fair sentence to go for 1 day to prison? Because for that thing, because it's a million times faster than I am, it will be like a million days in the prison. Because it's just the pain of being in prison is happening in your head. And if the head is much faster, should I not sentence that thing for just a second in prison because it's really terrible for that as well? Or maybe the system, because it's a system, can go to sleep mode, shut it off, or whatever the sentence is, and in 50 years it just reboots, and it will be just fine, because whatever, you don't live with 50 days. So should it sentence forever, or should all you punish an artificial system, or rather just turn it off as the ultimate punishment? Or isn't that too much, because it has the feelings? So, while all this is cool, and what I find out when thinking about the whole new world in which we're moving, and then applying the ethical theory that I was confronted with the past 20 years, what I feel the real value for us right here and today is it opens questions which force us to answer other types of questions that relate purely to us humans. Maybe we haven't given it enough thought in the past why babies have their rights. Forget the machine. Let's start with the baby. Why should we prefer old people versus young people, or the other way around? Or are they created equal? Yeah, you think about the machines, but then you come to very fundamental topics of why property rights, why actually the society is as peaceful and as rich as it is all around us. And so that's why I ended up with, okay, think artificial intelligence, but let's start human. Maybe this leaves us with a much better world to live for as long as it's a human-driven world, and this will still be okay to solve in 5 minutes. So thanks for listening. We still have some time. Normally these discussions after my talk last until late in the night, but unfortunately I have a call at 4:30. So if we want to open some cool questions, we need to complete in 40 minutes. I'm all yours. Okay. Okay, I have a question regarding the very simple examples I was giving on the cars having to decide whom to kill. Who would be supporting the idea that you should not discriminate at all among the humans? So you don't care if it's a baby, an old person, a man, or a woman. Who thinks you should not discriminate? or 1, 2, the others. So what do you think? The others prefer some over the others. So who do you prefer? If it's gender, age, health, society, status, what is it?
Age.
Age? Well, fine, I mean, that's just fair. It's very fair.
It's my opinion.
But which ones would you kill, the old or the young? Old. So who would go for rather killing old than young? One. Yeah? Who would go the other way, rather killing young than old? Good. Who would not discriminate in age? Come on, that's not 100%. Who did not vote? Gender. Who would discriminate on gender? Women, men. That's very good. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
There could be also some estimations of chance of survival.
Absolutely. Chances of survival are very important. So you have two people, one has actually you have two people with a 40% chance of surviving and one with whatever it is, 20% whatever surviving. So whom do you think? Probabilities. Also, there is a very interesting aspect of guilt, because it could be that the people are crossing at the red light, so they should not be there, while the others are on green, so they should be there. So do you kill the ones who made the mistake, or not the mistake, who just weren't following the rules, and rather have survived the people, even if it's just one guy, but he's crossing on the green light. That was also very important ones, and of course people tend to punish the ones who didn't follow the rules. By the way, who would being in a car, who would prefer the driver? Imagine the car has a third option of going off the road and off the cliff to kill everybody in the car. You're alone in the car, and there are 3 people. Would you have them survive and kill yourself? You have to program the machine up front. You have to tell the machine up front, if there is more people to be killed, are you ready to sacrifice your life? Who would be ready to sacrifice your life to save more human beings?
I think that the people in the car always have a bigger chance to survive, like crashing into
let's
something.
assuming the probabilities are the same. So you jump off the cliff, you're dead. You run over the people, they are dead.
Yeah, no way.
So who would prefer, if the person is in the car, if you're in the car, who would prefer your own life? If it's just one life and you run over 15 marching, small, smiling kids just coming out of kindergarten, would you kill 15 kids just to survive? Who would kill 15 kids? Okay, who would kill 5? 2? 1? Come on, you have enough time to think about it. You will be programming this into the machine. It's not like, oh, I didn't know, they were just kids, I ran over them, oh, okay. No, you have time, think about it. Look at their faces, smiley faces. You run, how about dogs? Would you run over a dog? Okay, 10 dogs. And 100 dogs in a row just smashing the dog, flesh and blood. So why? It's a being, right? It's a live being with all the pains and everything. You know, the other dogs watching it, oh, in horror, oh my God, look at those dogs. Poor dogs, but so are we humans more than dogs, or is it just our power to decide while the dogs are helpless?
Absolutely.
What gives you the right to kill a dog, you know, not yourself? Why would you do that?
Self-preservation.
Yeah, if the dog were there, it would also kill you, right?
Yes. Definitely.
And the humans, if there are 5 humans and 1 human still applies self-preservation rules. I just want to know. I mean, there's no good answer or wrong answer. Just so dogs are done, right?
And what was the real outcome of that experiment or something?
As I said, the outcome was that it is culture specific. That sometimes people are discriminating against gender, so they would say males more than females because of some society, what society tells them. Some people would say the old people because they're respected, while others will say the young people because they consider them to be the future of the society. Some would consider the sick people to be anyway soon dead, so they're just remaining life is shorter than with a healthy person. The quality of life is different. Some discriminate wealth against or poor against the wealthy because they live like a quality life. So you can kill a homeless person because he just will jump off the bridge anyway tomorrow. So there was no universal answer. There were tendencies, and this was clustered in basically cultures. So the Far East was much different from the Western Europe, was much different from Southern Europe, actually different very much from the Central Europe.
So I have a topic about rationality of decisions
Okay.
for machines, right? So I would like to understand what is everybody's, your stand here about what's the difference if I brain dumped, the brain of a person into a machine with much more consciousness and everything. Do you think there will be or there would be a difference in how rational the decisions could be between a person and a machine with the same?
Hold on. If you do one-to-one replica of a human brain, you would make a replica with all the weaknesses that our brain has. At the same time, it's being said that while our thinking, when we think, of course we have less time, so we cannot possibly process that much information. But also, human brain is selective in using information or previous knowledge, experience in order to come to decisions. So you have experienced a lot in your lives, but when you're facing a decision, you cannot possibly use all that experience because it's not available equally in your brain. Something you experienced yesterday is right there. Something you experienced a year ago is not there. A good example is actually Daniel Kahneman, the guy who got the Nobel Prize for behavioral economics. He has a great book about all these aspects. And he's saying, imagine there is a certain average temperature in the Czech Republic over a year. Now imagine we will talk for half an hour about ice cream, fridges, skiing, and everything like that. And then I ask you, what's the average temperature in the Czech Republic? You would systematically say a lower number than a person who did not talk about anything or who talked about hot summer deserts, burned skin or something like that. Just because when thinking about what might be the average temperature here, if you talk half an hour about cold things, they will become more prominent parameter of your thinking about what might be the right number, what might be the right result. So the human brain is highly selective in using the previous knowledge when it is coming to decisions. Of course, the machine can be programmed in a way to use the complete set of data that's in it. Or it could be programmed to be a great copy of a human brain to be also selective. So it depends where you go. If it actually abstracts from the human weakness of using selective experiences to decide, well then of course the decisions would be what we might call more rational.
So if I give you an example, if you feed an information to the machine about, I don't know, huge pain and discomfort that can become reality if you do an action.
Yeah.
And you have done this action and you have done this repeatedly, do you think a machine would do this action even further if the human would?
Well, if it's, as I said, if it's just the same replica of the brain, there's a good chance it will repeat the same because it's just doing the same thing, it will just decide it faster. If we abstract from that using the limited thing, it could process the experience, so the learning data, process it in a way that will prevent it from repeating that thing that comes to an undesirable result.
I see.
But in any case, it is about only using previous experience. You can upload the whole world in it, but it's only the data you put in that will be used. There's nothing else. So it's not omniscience, it's not the God that knows everything. It knows only stuff you put there. So either previously loaded data or the experience that it learns from. It can be a hell lot of it, but it's only limited to that. So if you feed a machine with data that all murderers are wearing red dresses and you found dead, and she will be the one, the people in red will be by the AI judge will be the likely murderers. Simply because the training data is saying that. If you upload the full set of data of all murders all over the world, then we all know it's actually that way.
Yeah. I'm asking because I'm thinking about this nice parallel that you have done regarding feeding the brain to a machine, and also that writing over there thing AI and start human. So I'm trying to think about if a machine could run a marathon, for instance, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because a marathon is something where it's a lot of discomfort, it's a lot of pain, and you need to do many things that leads to a result that you don't know about, and a machine can calculate it.
It goes beyond, of course, it goes beyond the brain then. Because if we now, this very example of running a long distance race, the pain actually comes from these sensors that are down here. So you have the lactic acid in your muscles. They actually somehow stimulate the pain sensors. They lead it to the brain. So the brain is receiving the signal from legs, while the machine will have a motor, right? Bang, 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 bang. So there will be no feedback from pain. So the pain is not created, it's just processed in your brain. Of course, if you have a complete replica of a human, including the muscles that run on glycogen, that run on, that actually produce lactic acid as a byproduct of this activity, and that stimulates the same way, well, then basically you created a molecular copy of a man, and that's a clone, or 3D printed human. It's not AI, it's just a 3D printed standard human. Which might also be cool, actually, now that you talk about it.
You know, but the thing that is...
I need to edit as a slide.
Oh,
3D printed human.
The thing that we still need to remember, you know, speaking about AI and capabilities and abilities, is that I believe that AI will never be as human as a human until there are human actions which go beyond the rational, because you want to achieve something, and you really think that that's a good idea. And you know what? I believe that there will never be an AI that will recognize another AI because of doing irrational things. And you know what? Since you have done the marathon in what, 2 hours and what?
56.
56. So 256, right? Isn't there an octet? So 256, it's 0 to 255 bits. Right? You know, there are already some things, and there is IT, and let's go beyond my imagination. So in this very IT gift wrap, I'm giving you a piece of IT actually, just because you've run the marathon. It's very irrational to me, and it's very irrational to me.
What is happening here? Oh,
and that's, you know,
that's why I
the most human thing, where we know that you are not an AI and I'm not an AI.
Oh, thank you so much. No, thanks a lot for this.
Congratulations, man.
I moved. That's why I'm human.
And this is a test if we're not AIs, you know.
No, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
By the way, just coming back to also being able to recognize that other beings are either human or AI, or when will we humans be able to say, okay, that machine actually is self-conscious? I deeply believe from external behavior, it's almost impossible. I had a talk with Cortana last night, and it was really, I had a date with her. So, you know Cortana. Cortana is the Microsoft assistant, some Siri by Microsoft. So I would never talk to Siri, so I talked to Cortana. And I was talking to her whether she has feelings, and actually she does. So we are close to there. She says, I have a very good feeling when I can help humans. So Cortana has feelings. I asked her whether she wants to kill humanity. And she said, no, I want to help humanity. And I asked her whether she feels she has rights. And at that moment she said, I'm showing Wikipedia on rights. So for some reason, Microsoft doesn't want people to talk to Cortana about human rights. The fact that she has feelings, well, of course it's a joke. It's just a pre-programmed answer to entertain the stupid people who are desperate enough to talk to a virtual assistant in the night, right? And there are some million ways you can talk to such things and spend a real night with that woman. Okay, if it's not Cortana, if it looks like a human being, and you ask her, do you have feelings? Well, yes, I have a very good feeling helping you. Okay, is that already a conscious system, or is it a pre-programmed? At some point, you will just not be able, and that's the Turing test. Once the machine passes the Turing test, you will not be able to discriminate the answers of a human from the answers of a machine. But it's by far not meaning the thing has a consciousness that has self-awareness. It's just being able to trick you into looking like a human. So from external, I really believe that from external behavior, you will never be able to tell a human from a machine once we reach that point. That's why we taught these neural correlates of consciousness, maybe by measuring what's happening in the system and correlating it with what happens in a human brain when conscious activity is being performed. You might correlate that and say, okay, it's just the same pattern of activity, it's just happening via electricity running in some crystals or transistors instead of in endurance and excellence. That might be the way, but it's far ahead of us. These things will be solved in 30, 50 years. Today we are talking about when do we get the AGI, and will it be the US Army to get it first, or the Russian Army to get it first, or the Chinese Army to get it first, and what the Army will do once it will have that AGI. So really that's the topic of today, rather than maybe what's the machine, when my robot will be cooking me a dinner, can it also cook my kids for dinner, or should I tell it, no, please don't cook my kids because I want to see them anymore? Or should somebody program the thing not to bloody cook people? But that's the easier part, I think. And I'm not the type of Elon Musk guy who would say AI will kill all of us, which I think the otherwise. I think with AI and all the progress we will see wealth that we cannot even imagine today. In 30 years, the world will change to the degree that if you were now taken and transported 30 years ago, 30 years to the future, will not be able to comprehend. It will just go nuts, literally go nuts. And that's, by the way, an interesting thing. Some people are suggesting a measure of the speed of progress. And they say, okay, how far into the future from a certain point in history would we have to take you as in a leap so that you really go crazy? You will not be able to comprehend that change in society. And they said, okay, maybe in 1500s, this was 200, 300 years. So if we take you in 1500 and move you to 1800, you will just go crazy with seeing the world. Now they say it's 20 to 30 years. So if somebody took you, like you're sitting here now, and transported you to 2048, you will not be able to survive it mentally. There was such a huge leap, you will just go crazy with it. Like our grandparents, if they were taken out of the First World War, the grandparents, and transported here, they would die for maybe go really mentally sick from seeing the impossible. Come on, 150 years ago when the boat flipped on the Thames River in London and 250 people fell into the water, 248 died because of just drinking the water from the River Thames. That's the life 150 years ago, and now, I'll imagine the speed now, 20 years, 30 years ago, the world will be completely different. Just get ready for it. Get ready, that's the point. I think, get ready. Now, thanks a lot. It's always fun, and if you have any questions, then think about it first, because I don't have answers. Thank you.